Welcome to She Blaze, where we're bringing you cannabis culture from a woman's point of view. And as always, here to elevate the cannabis industry. I'm one of your hosts, Ice Dawson, Cannabis Socialite.
She Blaze.
And I am Dasheeda Dawson, the WeedHead.
Hi, sis.
Hey, sis. Hey, sis.
Hey, sis. On today's episode of She Blaze, the world may be mourning one of the oldest colonizers, but cannabis news is still hot. Oklahoma court hit pause on its ballots. Illinois' cannabis money looks funny. And as legalization continues, we see the aftermath of launching a premature market.
Wow. Well, you started with a little bit of shade, and we're going to bring it to a little bit of sun and a little bit of God. So let's start with my high of the week.
Yeah.
I am super excited to be repping Gift of Doja or God. I am wearing a reflective bolero jacket with a stoner stash, y'all. Like it literally has it in the corner here just for me to be able to pull out my little pipe and any other things that I need. It's a $63 bolero, but more importantly, it's founded by a woman of color, Nina Parks, who's also one of the co-founders of the Cannabis Regulators of Color Coalition. You can get this along with a whole bunch of other really cute swag from Gift of Doja at giftofdoja.com. Shout out to Nina because the brand is hot. Got good flower too.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I love hearing that because I'm all about the weeds, honey, and it's very cute and it's perfect for fall.
It is.
It's giving Friday night football.
And very reflective.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I'm like in a P. Diddy video from back in the day too.
Well, you definitely got the shoulders going.
Hey.
Well, so let's get into my high of the week. It's September. I like to think about it like self-care timber.
Okay.
And so I'm going to talk about one of the many things that I love to do in self-care, and that is to do like face masks. And so I have to give a huge shout out to Tribe Beauty, TribeTokes. They have like some amazing face masks. I promise you guys, it does actually have CBD in its product. So let's start there first. It is 200 milligrams of CBD because we know that a lot of cannabis products don't always have what is in it. So it does have real CBD, and it also has all the things that are good for your skin. The pumpkin peel is my favorite because it really, really just detoxes my whole face. And then you have the Superfood mask, and that one's clean green. I like to use that in the morning before I do my makeup. Okay. And that will start at $15 to $60 depending on the size you want it. And they have a whole face care regimen that I'll be introducing more throughout the season. So check out Tribe Beauty, TribeTokes face mask.
Okay, yeah. And you know what? I have to, of course, say that I have tried it as well. I love anything that's going to be skincare with cannabinoids infused, not just CBD, but cannabinoids in general. Yeah. It definitely is very good at balancing inflammation. I've had some really bad flare-ups for my skin, so shout out to TribeTokes. All right. I mean, I know I was excited to talk about our brands that we love because that is always a good place to start. But girl, when you said everybody's mourning a colonizer, but the news of cannabis is still real and on top, I thought to myself, you are absolutely right, because it has been like my newsfeed is like got both a little bit.
Yeah.
And of course you would find the tea on both combined. Okay, so let's get into hot topic number one.
You already know. So as a millennial, they was like, child, the queen died. I didn't know what queen they was talking about. They was like the Queen of England. We said Adele. And then they was like the other woman. I was like, well, Jason Lee from Hollywood Unlocked allegedly killed her in March. So I didn't know she was still alive already. So I was quite confused. But yes, child, they have buried their queen in Britain.
Oh my goodness. Here's the thing. I have an obsession about the monarchy in general, but meaning more so history obsession, mostly because we do know, when you said the biggest colonizers are like that, there are not that many countries that Britain hasn't invaded and colonized. And this woman was the longest running monarchy. So I, of course, immediately thought to myself that it's sad someone passed generally She was old. She had a very, very long life. So I wasn't like that sad either. But then also you think about all the countries that have been abused over the years, especially Black and brown ones, from this colonization. So it's like, it's probably good that young people don't know who she is, because what has she done in the last 30, 40 years?
I don't know, but I know Bermuda know what they doing. So how this ties into cannabis, you guys? Well, while they are going through this tragedy, they are still just raining havoc on people's lives. So Bermuda's governor basically announced this week during this time that the United Kingdom blocked their bid to legalize cannabis in their country. Now, you know, this is the overstate territory. Bermuda is in the West Indies, Caribbean. Help me out, geography. But yes, so they are trying to get, you already know, that tourist coin. Mm-hmm. And so they had a real bill that they passed through their different departments. And basically they was like, yeah, the Majesty was like, this is unconstitutional, and that, you know, it is not an asset to their government. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it took a long time for their bill to even get there. The history of the bill is that, you know, it's been going a few times, and recently this year, March, they barely passed because of the controversy around it, because they had local grow and selling, mm-hmm. But it still was approved 18-6. It didn't pass the Senate of there, but it still goes through in their, I don't know, their government system way. It still was able to make its way to the United Kingdom. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Well, because when you're ruled by the United Kingdom, at the end of the day, you still have to, you know, it's like if a big company has a U.S. Base, is where it's from, but you open a satellite somewhere overseas, you still are responsible to the base. And for a lot of colonized countries, Britain was the base. So you're basically saying Great Britain, after all the work that the Bermudans did to get legalization even in a real way discussed, they shot it down. It's almost like you now know, like the pole has, or the barrier has moved itself, because it's not just about what's happening within the country. It's people miles and miles away able to be like, it's not good for you.
Right. I thought when people die, you're supposed to get like one wish or something. Oh wait, that's the wedding on the Godfather. I'm sorry, y'all. God. Mixing my movies, but I'm like,
listen, I don't know what's about to happen. One thing we do know though, who are people who are historians of the monarchy, is that in the early like part of you know, her reign, there probably was more value in the monarchy, but over time, really all it is symbolic. There's no real power there. So it actually was their probably parliament that made that decision, and not the queen herself. But the queen had always had that ability to be able to say, I don't agree, and cause drama if she wanted, because she was beloved, and she never did. Even in cases where, I think, based on the little biopics that they're doing on Netflix, but in cases that she actually believed or aligned with maybe the more right thing to do, she didn't stand up. She was scared. And that to me is what is like, is this really a hero? But people are like, well, she didn't really have power. She could have. I mean, that might have meant splitting up England in a way that maybe she didn't want to.
I know she may not have the power, but she got the coin, honey. She got y'all coin, yep. And y'all ain't even got no cannabis coin. And, you know, for y'all other countries that are trying to move forward with this side of the hemisphere, because we understand, you know, the United Kingdom really got some sketchy cannabis laws anyway. Yep. This side of the hemisphere is trying to move forward with the rest of the countries like Mexico, Canada, America, right. And you're blocking it. So, you know, I'm just, I just don't have time for it. And, you know, even though people are mourning in this area, y'all can do the right things now. Come on. Y'all ain't got to block them people cannabis.
Yeah, I actually think that, I hope this is a transition to start, you know, releasing. But I think, you know, for a lot of people, this is the only, for Britain, this is the way they are a true, quote unquote, global power. And, you know.
Well, Bermuda did do a little something. They have allowed possession up to 7 grams. So, you know, you get you a little quarter, honey, and you can have a quarter on you and you be all right. Because, you know, they still want you to come on vacation. They know you want to smoke on the beach. Okay.
So they've done some decriminalization.
Yes, but they want people to be able to grow. They want to be able to sell. They want to make it a tourist hub. And why not? If you could do it before Jamaica, if you could do it before Cuba, if you could do it before all the other different countries, Aruba, these type of countries, you're putting yourself as the cannabis tourist hub.
You're absolutely doing that. And I think they're smart. And there is a race because right now, as we speak in Jamaica, we have a very big and multi-year conference called CanX happening.
Yes.
And to me, it's like, you would think Jamaica was further along with how many conferences. They're not. And so Bermuda still has some viability here.
You would think Jamaica was farther along. You also would think Jamaica would ask one of them brothers up in the mountains to teach people how to grow weed, but they asked people from Colorado. But that's a whole different thing.
That is a very different
So let me just go on to hot topic too, because I guess the reeds is just coming out, child.
Oh my goodness.
And with the reads coming out, we have to read what's in the notes of Illinois. People are saying all these things, but we actually don't know what's happening.
No, I mean, so Illinois is in a little bit of a hypocritical financial situation. That you like to say the money look funny.
Yes.
The money really do look funny. So let's talk about it. We just found out because they have regular reports on the sales, the top line sales for the industry in Illinois. And through August, it just eclipsed $1 billion. $1 billion of retail sales, people going in dispensaries and buying.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. Does this include the price of the taxes that they put? So if we go in and buy, you know, at the end of the receipt, we got the taxes that we got to pay. Does this $1 billion include those taxes?
I don't believe it does. And I'll be honest, I'm always good to go back and check, and thank God for the Cannabis Regulators of Color Coalition, because I'm like, let me find out from the Deputy Cannabis Regulatory Oversight Officer. I will definitely double check, but here's my take based on the experiences that I've had so far. When they're talking about the total sales, they're getting it from a seed to sale technology that tracks what's going out the door at the retail level and not so much the tracking down the chain. What's happening at the retail level is also taxed. When we give the total sales of just the industry, they're not talking about the tax. They're talking about what the cost of the product was going out the door. Right. And in Illinois, you already know it's like 30-something% or whatever, some crazy number. So you may go in, you might have spent only $100 on it, and you left with a $150 bill. And so that $50 or that tax dollars, right, when we talk about how much Illinois has earned as a state in tax revenue, we're talking about that money. Mm-hmm. And that money, because Illinois did have a fairly progressive bill, shout out to Toy Hutchinson, who helped do a lot of that work. That bill included a 3R reinvestment strategy in the community. And so Illinois is actually taking that bit of tax money and giving it back to the communities. 30% in their law must go back in a very strategic way. And it actually has been tens of millions of dollars. We don't hear that story much. To who and what, we don't have a report yet. And that's why we're also like, it kind of looked funny, because now, even though we're talking about $1 billion and we're talking about a lot of tax revenue that might be going into communities of color, mm-hmm, communities that have been most harmed from cannabis prohibition in Illinois, we're also seeing a lot of people talking about the social equity program AIM is like on its last legs, honey.
Well, the social equity program might be on its last leg, but I just want to get into who's buying this weed. Yeah. Because here's the thing. I like your market, but you know, if I've been using the market before the market legalized, then am I really buying your market? Right. And so they're saying that 2/3 of the revenue is coming from people that are based in Illinois. Mm-hmm. That is pretty hard to believe with how much they pay in taxes. I wonder if they pay a lower percentage in taxes.
I don't believe that there are those benefits, but I believe that there probably are, it was a cannabis medical program first in place. This is not including necessarily that it's just adult use, but I still believe that the core of every adult use market is the medical market, and Illinois was pretty large. These are the people, I am part of that population that is willing to try and buy because you already know that it works for you. And then, so I do believe that when we look at the 2/3, I'd love to know how many of those already have a medical card.
Illinois, thank you for the report, but we need some more numbers and figures.
We need more numbers, but that's like literally every jurisdiction. I mean, people could come from me for Portland, but I've been displaying what I have, and you do it as fast as you can. And when you are a government entity, you can, but you really prefer if you actually put out a report that has some accurate information and not be like, well, what we had said was wrong and we want to change it. No, I don't want to do that. And so I can understand the hesitancy there, but I'm also looking at the numbers and then saying, but Illinois still hasn't actually launched a social equity program yet.
Right.
Illinois is still not quite equitable. It's still just big companies making money there.
Right. With they big nasty weeds. So why are they saying that their equity program is on collapse?
Well,
didn't they just get a whole bunch of new licenses? Aren't y'all supposed to be up and running? We supposed to be getting some ribbon cuttings or something.
You are hilarious, but for a lot of people, that's not happening. We've talked about what this conditional license state means, and that's a lot of what's been happening. You get these conditional licenses out, or even in the case of Illinois, even if there are licenses, you don't have your build out yet. You're still pre-actual company development, unlike California, where the conditional licenses, a lot of people you can get into business, you can start selling, you just aren't selling with a full license, and we saw those issues. So I think really what we're seeing is people still struggling to get the financing they need to get up and running, and the market has remained still not equitable and not integrating legacy, and not even of these 180 something that just recently got announced. First of all, they applied way long ago, since 2019, and so you're already looking at, they may be not even in business anymore. Lawsuits abound. We saw that in New Jersey. Some of the licenses. Companies don't last that long in the industry, for real. The big ones do because they have money that they can burn.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's really what happens with these licenses sometimes, and even as is a conditional license. How many conditional temporary license that did not get up and running, and now they're selling it off to a big MSO. Mm-hmm. MSO don't even know it got it as a license. It got it in a Roundup, child. Yes. And Illinois will be more likely to see those type of effects because Illinois is one of those big name markets. Yes. Michigan, we hear little rumblings, but you don't hear it as much because Illinois has more of a international tourism versus Michigan. Americans like to, or they are in Michigan. Yeah. But also Illinois wasn't medical for that long before it became adult use.
It was long enough, but it was still
until I could get a suppository. Market's not up.
It wasn't mature enough. So here's the thing. I think maturity, and we're going to talk about that in our main topic, but I think maturity of a market is critical for us to define and where it was. But it was technically a medical market from, I think it was 2011. Correct me if I'm wrong. It might have been 2014. But the fact of the matter, because New York came online 2014, was a bed of states. They didn't have a Arizona medical market.
No, they had a hemp remix bill.
And that's where it wasn't mature enough. It's squeeze the avocado before you cut it.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm just saying it.
Right. What? It's how y'all have a adult use program and you telling me you don't even got no THC lube? What?
Yeah. It means that they're not paying attention to the product diversity. They're assuming a lot of basic science still, all of the things that we talk about. And, they're moving along. Big companies also really don't understand consumer behavior, nor are they willing to try to figure it out either, especially Black and brown consumer behavior. And in order to understand that, you got to understand our relationship with the criminalization of cannabis. I still don't like to smell like weed, even though I smell like weed all the time. I have learned to love it. I have found terpene-rich perfumes and sprays that work well with it, but sometimes I have to be still like, whoa, who smells like that? It's me. It's my bag. It's you. And, and you get in the markets like a Tennessee, and I'm just going to visit a friend, and I don't have anything on me, and I still smell like that because that bag was used for weeks and weeks and weeks. Right. It is still a fear, and until we accept it and deal with it accountability-wise from the private and the public sector, this ish will not work.
It doesn't work right now, according to their social equity program, to the point I feel like some of these people be like, listen, stop calling me social equity because my shit not even on. Okay?
Well, that's actually a real campaign right now. People are really wanting to get away with the word. And as a pioneer of a lot of words, lexicon changes in the cannabis space, I say we got to hold steadfast to certain things because we can't let people come in and take our shit. And by shit, I mean co-opting the language that we are trying to use to explain who we want to be in the market, who we want to help repair from the market's proceeds. And I think we just have to keep trying. But everybody, whether it's MWBE, every single designation we have ever had in America that is intended to prioritize getting those who have been historically excluded into it, the people who are the majority who are already included have always tried to figure out how they can now be included. That's just what we're up against. So we cannot, we can't back down. And so when people are in situations, especially people of color, I hate the word social equity. I get you, sis. I get you, bro. But the reality is I can't hate it when I'm in government. I have to define it again, and define it again. And I need a chorus of people doing it too. And I think that's where we're struggling. We've defined something and we almost put a scarlet letter on people for the people who want to invest. You hear social equity, you think, oh, you're only going to be able to grow it up to this point. You're only going to be able to do up to that point. That is not equity. That is not social equity. That is a program that is similar to affirmative action. And we know that did not work. It got also turned around into something that was more for white women than really people of color, right? It's just, we have to be very clear that we're in a puzzle.
Yes. Period. And I'm not, period. I'm not saying I don't dislike social equity. I do think we need the terminology. I'm just saying stop calling me a social equity license when my license can't get up.
I agree with you. And I think we definitely need to stop setting up these licenses with these special names. Ones, because they get co-opted. In New York, we got lawyers who are literally trying to charge people $50,000, $60,000 to do a card license application, which, by the way, is not that difficult.
Right.
It's not that difficult.
Like a couple pages.
It's not that difficult. And so would you pay $50,000 or $60,000 to fill out your Social Security card application replacement? Would you pay that amount of money to fill out a DMV, ID replacement? Would you still, anything really? I don't know. I think, yes, you are doing something that's big business. Yes, it's an important thing, but there is no other industry where people are trying to do that. And so that's the predatory feel of language that we have to push back against.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we got our eyes on you, Illinois, honey.
Yes, we do.
Because y'all saying y'all making coin, but the people is not saying that. So the money's funny. But let's get into hot topic number 3, because I think this is a great example of what happens when you got a good market and you need more time to develop it into a great market. So Oklahoma, we know this year is a election year for a lot of states, a lot of midterms, a lot of this, a lot of that. Y'all already know Blaze is coming with that ballot initiative episode. Yes, we have done it many times, and we love to do predictions, and we love to say what state is coming online, not coming online. And we can maybe even compare to our last time we had a big election and what states are online, up and coming, and stuff like that. But definitely excited to talk about so far 5 states on the ballot for legalization. Do we like it? Do we not? So more to come on that. But as we talk about this hot topic number 3, Oklahoma said, honey, you may not want to include me in them 5 states. And they're not. So Oklahoma, for sensible marijuana, submitted many signatures to qualify for their ballot measure last month.
Right.
And they have to accept the language and the title in the draft by the secretary, by the state attorneys general, before the Secretary of State certifies the signatures.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like, a whole like long government process in order to even get it on the ballot. Well, child, they tried to tell them that they did not make the cutoff deadline. They tried to they tried to tell them that they need to come back and do it and revise it. Well, Oklahoma's activist was like, try it again. And they did, and they went into court. And so Oklahoma Supreme Court is deciding to delay its decision on whether it should go on the ballot, whether the signatures should be accepted, and if, somebody moved their feet a little pitter-patter slow. Yes. And the reason why it's so specific on the deadlines of the ballots is because people, remember, they have to print up your ballots. They have to make sure it is the right question. Yep. There has to be a specific title. Like, it is some intricacies that go into these ballot initiatives. And sometimes when you wait to the last moment.
And they use it as strategy. The ops do.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They do. They use these technical intricacies of strategy because they assume, and they usually are right, that the people who are bringing together the ballot initiatives do not know. And they have been notorious for this. They, meaning government. It's a sad thing. I don't know. Sometimes it makes me feel like, am I wearing my government jacket today, or am I shooting for the people? And the shooting for the people is like, y'all don't even understand the extent to which the government uses its own technical things to prevent the people from really owning government. This is an example.
Absolutely, because with the certain steps that you have to take to make go from campaign to ballot, you have to have a minimum of a 10-day period for people to challenge the text, challenge the title, and by people they mean state officials.
Yes.
And that, this has to happen, like, between the deadline, the state attorneys general, and the actual secretary of state, because it's two different parts of state that have to go into this ballot initiative in this specific state. Well, child, the tea is that they hired a new third party to certify signatures, and that they were very, very, very slow on announcing it and allowing the 10-day gap to happen so they could, miss the deadline for the print off, because they literally are printing off ballots like we're in the 1950s, but that's a whole different topic.
That's actually a very, very, very accurate assessment of the time period, because I do feel like we have moved to the point where it should be digital, but we have so much worry about the integrity of our digital information. How many times we've been hacked is like, I only want to do it. We're in, right? But that means I also have to deal with humans who are hackable, and they are, counting backwards and stuff. So
they hackable, and they will dress up as in costume,
right?
As the wrong, literally as the wrong job. Say they have this job, and take you to your house.
Yes, I mean, I think it's scary to hear how easily astray these efforts can be, in terms of getting derailed. I'm also, like you said earlier, I'm not upset by it. I understand that people want adult use, but we still have a lot of Black and brown people getting arrested. They never handled their criminalization part and their enforcement part. Oklahoma is a lot of licenses, and they didn't also handle how do they confirm who is who and what. And because they don't have a lot of integrity in that process, or enough, and they didn't put a barrier on law enforcement was like, oh, they don't know, so we're going to keep going after people who are, and Black and brown people are primarily Black, Indigenous, and Latinx people are the people they're going after in Oklahoma. It is very lopsided right now. It's a scary market if you're a person of color, in my opinion.
And I would say Oklahoma, believe it or not, is one of the meltedest pot states.
Yes.
Where there are many Black people, many Latin people, many Indigenous people, and many white people. people,
Yes,
honey.
yes.
So I would say Oklahoma is one of the rare states in America that actually looks up, when you think about America and its diversity, actually looks like America and its diversity.
In the broader sense of
population.
They probably could do better with the Asian population. I ain't seen too many of that in Oklahoma, to be honest.
I mean, it's in the middle of the dang country.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Compared to like a New York, there is a lot less Asian, East Asian, Southeast Asian. You're not going to necessarily see that in Oklahoma. But I do agree. In the case of Black, Indigenous, and Latinx, like, I was trying to use a location as a pilot location. Oklahoma would be a great one. Also, because hemp, literally, cannabis grows out of the sidewalk. And so it is something that I feel like, and it's an easy market to get into, but the easy to get into with the wayward enforcement just leads us, people of color, down a path where you think you're doing something all with the state, but the state has not provided any protections for you because they don't have any integrity in how they're licensing people. It's sort of like we swung the pendulum too far. I do think the price should stay the same. I think they shouldn't have caps, but they basically said if you could fill out a form, you were being accepted. Even a driver's license requires you to, prove you got some competency. And so it's still, too far on the pendulum swing, if you ask me.
I definitely agree, but I just think for them, it just wanted to give easier access into getting into people's house, like knock, knock, walk in.
You're right, because your number and your information is all now in a system. That's absolutely true. When you set up that easy of a way that people to get set up, and you don't also handle and check your law enforcement, like New York, as soon as it legalized, the next day or the next day after that, maybe April 2nd, the police issued, here's what we can't do no more. And that was arrest people on the basis of smell. So it was because of the law. It literally put it in that place. That Oklahoma's law did not do that. It kind of still was like, y'all keep arresting Black folks if you want to.
Right.
They smell like weed, go ahead and do that too.
But it was a setup, y'all. It's set up to set you up, honey.
Yeah,
it's sad, the legalization question, we haven't gotten all the way through it, but it's just a question. It actually has nothing to do with any of the criminalization that has happened within Oklahoma. And so right now it is a huge pause happening in Oklahoma because the justices of the court are like, listen, we just need a moment to get this together. We need to read through the text, read through the title, read through the deadlines and who this third party is, because they don't know them people, child. And so before they can make a reaction. So everyone is just breathing a little, holding their breaths, waiting. I know the advocates, definitely the setup of the state officials, okay, they're holding their breaths, and we're waiting to hear more because this will determine whether that question ends up on the ballot or not. And we know that if you legalize too soon, it's going to come back and haunt you.
Absolutely. And, I'm definitely really concerned with how we're choosing to determine what to do with this time. So you could get mad and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that we're actually not going to be able to have adult use. Or you can actually say, this is the time to fix some of the dramatics that we're seeing within the medical market. At the end of the day, the medical market is still the base for the adult use market. So, yeah.
I mean, Toklahoma is going to be Toklahoma. Regardless, it still has a medical market, and I definitely remember going to Oklahoma and helping the medical market happen. And, now we're live. And I'm looking at the results and seeing that, at the end of the day, even if they don't have the adult use legalization, they'll at least have their medical. So get your cards up, y'all.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of prematurely opening your market, I know that we've been talking about maturity of markets and what we like to refer to as some, markets that have opened and have had time, but that doesn't necessarily always say that they're mature. I'm just being real. It is a very different thing. Maturity has a lot of different levels to it. So I'm very eager to jump into what that actually is.
Yes, girl, because I am tired of y'all birthing these premature ass babies. Child, no shade, nothing wrong with premature baby, no shade. But I'm just saying that with this cannabis premature market, y'all could have waited. Y'all could have had some more fluff. Y'all not that hungry. Y'all get enough income from other things that you don't need that much income from the cannabis stuff. Okay.
Well, you're right. So, to one, your analogy about the premature birthing it does feel accurate, because that's not what any mother, as somebody who's had a baby already, that's not what any mother wants to go through. You still love your child afterwards, but it can be painful and very difficult on all parties involved. And in some ways, having a premature cannabis market has been very painful and difficult, especially for the patients, but it is for all parties involved. Regulation, private sector, but the consumers really, really get the shortest end of the stick, if you ask me.
Yeah, because we always the last to know, but we have to be the first one to spend our coin.
Exactly. Exactly. 1,000%.
Without us, we would have no market.
I think that is something that is so important to say, that when we're talking about market, we're talking about supply and demand, right? So what's the market period, supply, demand, and all of the things within that ecosystem, including ancillary things, the way people perceive your market products, all of that is what we look at when we're analyzing a market. And whether something is mature versus premature has a lot to do with all those parts too. You could have a mature market and that is long in the tooth, honey. It's been around for 10 years, but it is still immature as far as its products is concerned. Right. Minnesota is long in the tooth, but Minnesota got just oil.
And they barely got damn edibles. So yes, I do agree.
Yes.
Okay, if you've been a medical market for 10 years, but you have only had oil, you've only had 5 operators, 10 operators under 100, right? Because we know it's easy to regulate under 100 operators. If you've only had under 100 operators in your cannabis market, you are in a premature market. I don't care how many legalizations, how long you've had it on the books, or how many votes you had. You have to have more operators. You have to have more cultivators. You have to have more products.
Yes, absolutely. And let's be honest, that from a regulator's perspective, you riding with the training wheels on, because you do not have enough licenses to understand the nuances of the diversity of business challenges that would come from multiple licenses. Sometimes I think it's funny when I'm talking to regulators out of states where my little city has 100 times more licenses than you have. So you don't understand the complexity of what challenges many types of businesses come up against. You only know what these big old well-funded businesses, but again, very little cannabis competency, very little product diversity, innovation. And so then you cannot be, again, the person at the table telling us that you are part of a mature market and therefore you're an expert. We're going to tell you to go have several seats.
Several seats. I mean, it's funny you said it's like you rhyme with your training wheels. Yes. Because it is. It's like, okay, so you got that dusty flower. Oh, that's cute. Right. But we've been cannabis consumers, Right. So we are, when we're looking for cannabis markets, we don't want to just go into a dispensary that kind of just looks like where we already get our cannabis from. If I already get actual flower from my boy, I get good edibles from my boy, I want the other stuff, like a great concentrate or THC lube, like I said, or women products or THC skincare, full whole plant, like real THC. Like I'm saying 3,000 milligrams in a jar of THC that you could put on your skin. Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I was shopping in Portland and, I do that regularly, of course. And I went to buy topical, and because of the milligrams, it sent me over my limit. I've never been over my limit ever in any market on THC, and they have a THC limit in Oregon, and it flagged me. So I couldn't get a bath bomb and the topical. It was like, cannot compute, And it was because they were both 500 milligrams. One was probably, I think, 750 milligrams. Of course, you're going to use it over time, but also I'm not ingesting it. And so it's like, what's the science behind tracking that anyway? You know, it just doesn't make sense. And it makes like me think, oh my God, I'm actually in a premature market. We talk about Oregon as a mature market, but you know what? Oregonians can't talk about cannabis like they are mature cannabis consumers. And that tells me that we're in a premature market still.
Yes. And there are a lot of 10-year anniversaries coming up.
Yep.
And there are going to be a lot of celebration. There's going to be huge celebrations, clapping your hands. 10 years later, 25 states, blah, 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 whatever. But it's like, well, if it's 25 states and they're really just carbon copies of my homeboy that I've been getting cannabis from literally for like the last 10 years too, then, you know, what am I celebrating?
I don't even think that you're giving them more credit in some places. You say carbon copies. Minnesota didn't copy anybody. We're not sure where they got this other than from very scared legislators. It's like, we're going to do this, but we're going to give you like the most expensive, limited options ever and say, you're going to love it just like it is. So I don't know if I fully agree with you. I do think there are some markets that it's like, yeah, where's the testing? Is no testing required? Where's my consumer protection? In that regard, it does feel like just getting it from your homeboy, because at least I know I ain't been sick over the last decade dealing with him, as opposed to, you know, maybe I might be getting moldy weed with this one. So I agree with you that there's that, but the legal market is supposed to offer so much more. The taxes indicate that as much, right? Let alone how much time people wait and the amount of work to put a framework. It should be better. You're absolutely right. It should be much better than what we've been doing naturally without any help from the government.
Right. Okay. So at what point, right, do we just want to be honest and say that we're in a premature market and maybe we shouldn't legalize yet? Or if we legalize, the rollout has to be particularly like this?
I think it's important for us to start looking at slower roller outs. If you ask me, I think we intend to put in statute much faster because we think that people are going to run to the dispensary. Right. And we've seen time and time again that people do not run to the dispensary. I'm sorry, you spent too many decades criminalizing it in such a harsh way. It's destroyed families. It's actually really hard for me to talk about it and not think about certain people I know that their whole lives, 20 years just down the drain, and multiple generations at that. So we can't overcome that with just like, we made it legal, y'all. It's like, we're not cartoon characters and it's just like, okay, we overwhelmed. That's the reefer madness marketing of the new industry, if you ask me. Right. It's about reconditioning and re-educating and having a new relationship with cannabis, one that has our actual history, multicultural history at that, right. And the fact that it's medicinal inherently, right. And it is not something that we have to cope with, worry about in that way anymore. Right. And that is not going to happen overnight. So we won't be premature until the consumer market is not thinking like that. They may vote for it to be legalized, but they still have a premature thinking on cannabis.
The only market that I'm willing to give props to is Arizona. Okay. Because one, they have had they have a long tooth nail or whatever you call it.
Long in the tooth. Saber tooth, that's how you know how old they are. The longer the saber tooth, or actually, I don't know, it might be a walrus. There are some animals that they have their teeth outside their mouth. And the longer their teeth, that means the older they are. So that's what it's looking. Long in the tooth, honey, means.
Ciao. So Arizona's had this market for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. They have a very large product assortment. They have it all over their state. Yep. So it's not just in their big city like Phoenix. Like, mm-hmm. You know, if you go to the outskirts, you could figure out your cannabis procurement. Mm-hmm. And then they also just didn't vote yes to the first bill that came on their ballot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the first legislation that got passed in Arizona would have been terrible compared to where they're at right now. And of course, it's not that great, right? Like, right. Nothing's going to be perfect. It's like not really even a thing. But like, as far as just what a consumer looks like as a cannabis connoisseur, as a cannabis person that works within the cannabis industry.
Mm-hmm.
They have done the things to create like a real market. So I would actually consider that not premature and more of a mature market.
I absolutely agree with you. Then we shift the matrix to talk about equity, and I still feel they're premature, right? Like, because it's still not a lot of equity in their market. But I agree with you that they tried. What we saw in 2016, which is the first time the ballot initiative came up for Arizona, was, a shadow of what they have today. And what they have today, nobody ever thought Arizona would ever have. So I think that's also giving them credit. But when it was time to be implemented and rolled out, you got the regulation, interfering. If implementation doesn't have the same intentionality, it often gets stalled. And so the advocates would say the same thing we said about Illinois, that, market's looking good. It's continuing to grow. Medical, up until this last month, Arizona was reporting that the medical market was still growing while having the adult use market. No other states has really done that. But advocates would say, but the social equity program was a sham and it got bought. And that's the problem we have with this industry, is that it's still like people can go to the highest bidder. And by people, I mean government people, sadly. And
any people go to the highest bidder, because I feel like they do buy our Black businesses, want to, honeypot them. And, we go hard in the paint for ours, right? Like, to get this big, to be this global, to still be able to produce and not necessarily have to go to a traditional brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. We go hard in the paint for that. But when we do go to that, we then have to get bought out of that. And now our shit look different, smell different. Everyone's confused. They're like, how you Black owned, but you just got bought out by this, right, and stuff like that. So actually, most of our Black, brown businesses are set up to be bought out if you want to make that money.
Yeah, it's called an actual wealth event. Mm-hmm. And most times when you're building a consumer product brand, for sure, you're looking for that opportunity to be sold at much higher value than where you started. Or you're looking for the opportunity to be expanded, and you have to give away equity to do that usually. And I definitely had a recent conversation about there is expansion that just happens when people are willing to invest in capital market in general, and they don't want to own it for their life. But for whatever reason, when Black people do stuff, we are looking to invest, not to just get a quick return on an investment. We want to own it for life with that person. Or when people see Black owned industry businesses, they want to own it for life. It's really odd because it's not the normal.
Listen, girl, when I get my little conditional licenses, I might have to sell it to the bidder. No,
you might. And the thing is, you have to stay out the gate what that is. Not every license that's to be had. That's why we can't use that as that's the equity wealth generating, for generations plan. That's not a plan for generational wealth. You're helping one particular person, one particular family.
You making
a flip. In some markets, and sometimes it's not. If you already have a brand, you might be able to be that 100-year brand later on. Maybe if you got together and consolidated, y'all are that group per se. But everybody ain't gonna make it to the end of this movie, and so you got to figure out when to make your exit appropriately, and hopefully it's something that is memorable, so you can move on to your next booked job or your next movie deal. I feel like it's a lot of lack of strategy and understanding how to maneuver in the industry. But again, that's why I wrote the book, How to Succeed in the Cannabis Industry, because I do feel like we got to be a little bit more strategic as we're approaching it. Sometimes you are getting a license to build a long-standing family business. Got to pick the right market for that. And I don't know that New Jersey is not it. New Jersey is not it. So
no shade, Jersey, but y'all know why y'all get shade. But our market, before we go off the premature thing, I did want to say, you are right. None of our markets are mature because they're only 10 years old. And right. I don't know if you've ever been around a 10-year-old. I have, but they're not very mature.
No. And in business, that is still the same.
Right. And some people just stop maturing at 13. And that's it. So, yeah, you're right. Well, they get older in age, but they still 13 in the brain.
No, I totally understand that. Hopefully we'll get better, and we don't have these stalling of maturation. But like you said, New Jersey is not the place where people want to like necessarily start your wealth generating business for your generations to come.
Not when you birth this premature baby, because that is what New Jersey did, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. They brought their adult use out way too fast. We get it. It's on the ballot. Yes, everybody wants legal weed. Duh. But that does not mean you have to then flip it and reverse into a whole new market when you had a market that could have just been better.
Yes. The medical program definitely could have been better.
Could have been better, and reports of it being trash while y'all trying to build y'all adult use, right? Because we are now seeing things from last year when it wasn't open yet, where people were just still medical patients, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
So, I'm not running to a New Jersey cannabis dispensary. Y'all could keep that mold. You know what I'm saying? So first we got to get into many things. Okay. But how I am getting this information, you guys, New Jersey has a open public record act that is responsible for sharing all these type of public record information in New Jersey, obviously, duh, but specifically to the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. And it comes from different things from January 2020 all the way through mid-April 2022. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, we told you that many MSOs got fined because they were selling over time to adult use patients during medical hours only, because that was something that was implemented to ensure the medical patients are cared for first. Right. But they felt like, they could make enough money that fine place for itself. That's a whole different story. But with this open record, public records now, it shows even more allegations. It also shows how they are investigating these cannabis businesses as well.
Okay.
So first, just so you know, they kind of only thing they really do to like have like an investigator or inspector really is that they review cameras and videos like kind of casino style, and they're just reviewing what you're watching. Some people for food, they usually come in and look at you to inspect it, but for this, they're just looking at it on the camera. And so back in 2021 in March, girl, Ascend Inventory, they got like 50 jars. They only reporting 6 ounces, but it feel like it may be 60 ounces went reported missing. And that, it wasn't enforced. It wasn't figured out. Like nobody knew nothing up until this public record. Like nobody knew anything about Ascend's missing jars.
So 50 jars. If it's only
5 jars. No, Nate. No, it is 50 jars.
50 jars. So 50 jars went missing. And they say it's only 6 ounces. What, these 50 jars of eighths? That's the only thing I can think of, or grams. Whatever it is, doesn't make sense. I would say I'm not surprised. And this is the fact of every market. We have to look under the hood. Some are more egregious than others. Nevada was straight corruption. And we're not seeing the regulators be a part of this, thank God. But we are seeing that these people don't respect the industry patients, and they don't really respect the market for real. Even though they are now, front and center, good citizens of this equitable market we're growing in New Jersey, adult use, la 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 la.
They equitable. Your MSOs is equitable, honey. They also is better weed than, getting it from your boy on the street. So they say. So according to more public record, Curaleaf on 10 occasions was cited for violating security labeling and mold. Honey, yes, they had you basically have different different securities that are forced in the different parts of the business models and licenses, and Curaleaf, which is vertically integrated, was cited for not just cultivation, not just manufacturing, not just dispensing, like every single part was cited. So that was crazy to me. And I couldn't believe it. And then Zen Leaf. Have you ever heard of Zen Leaf before?
I had never heard of Zen Leaf. And so when you were, we were talking through the notes of this, I was like, who is this company?
Yeah, I never had heard of Zen Leaf either. So I'm just thinking, oh, maybe it's just like a local thing to Jersey. But they were, it's under the Veneros people. Okay. So it's under that Illinois company.
So Verano's,
yes. Whatever. Sorry, y'all. Y'all know I be messing up people's names. But basically they got cited more than 20 times. And this is the company has a lot of backing in Illinois. They were on video camera, basically not accessing things right. They also, during the time when it was medical use only, were not checking patients as they were on the medical use registry, allegedly only 2 times, but there is still some uncertainty around it. But even during 2021, when it was medical use only, but even now when they have special patient hours, they're like, can't even tell how to determine if you're a medical patient or not as Zen Leaf. And then they also had in 2021 to destroy 127 pounds of cannabis.
Wow.
You want to know why? Okay, so basically they said that the cannabis fell on the floor and they swept it up.
And then put it on the shelf? Or was attempted to? But
they said it was contaminated.
In quotes.
Yeah.
So what happened after they destroyed it? It went where? They actually saw it burned? Or do you think it went into the unregulated market?
I mean, the investigator ordered them to destroy 127 pounds because it fell on the floor and was swept up and is contaminated.
Wow. Well, listen, I'm definitely not surprised again because we've heard all of the craziness before markets open. What I think I'm trying to figure out is what they gonna do about it. Now and the report is out. How are y'all going to fix this? Because these are the same people, big old companies that also have access and are currently selling in the adult use market.
Child, I don't know. Y'all know, if you don't know, now you know. Law and Order is one of my favorite shows. Every one of them, I watch them all. Yeah, what in the Dick Wolf is going on here? Like, what in the Dick Wolf? You telling me that an investigator said, oh, y'all dropped 120 pounds on the floor. Contaminated. Throw that away. Are you serious?
I don't know if I fully believe it, but I actually do believe it. I actually am more alarmed that is it that they told them to do it because they really tried to put 120 something pounds on the shelves of dirty ass weed, or is it that there's something else like sinister happening with that? So it's like,
how do you drop 120 pounds on the floor? How much square footage do you have to have?
I mean, not a lot actually, and 120 pounds of weed is not actually a lot visibly in a sense, but it is, to your point, like, how did it wind up on the floor and what room? Who dropped it? Was it in a machine? Was it being trimmed in like an automated machine and it all fell? How does that happen? What's the mechanism? You're right. And every grow and every place I've been, my mental ability to visualize it is difficult. So I agree with you. What in the Dick Wolf is like actually happening? Because I can't help but squint my eyes. It's like, maybe I'll see it. I don't think so.
Oh my God. And then that's the cultivation. But let's get into the dispensing, girl. According to documents in this 80 pages, they said y'all tenders can't even count, child. They don't know fractions. They can't tell you an eighth from a 3.5 to a 7 to a quarter, a half, child. Bye. I'm like, they don't know fractions. They don't know how to divvy up your cannabis. So I don't know about y'all. Even with my personal guy I be going to, I still, you know us, we be weighing the hell out our weed. You like, I think we need a bigger scale.
Well, because I do. Everybody is using cannabis in some way. And so when you have hemp flower, you have high THC flower, I like to weigh it also when I'm making mixes. It's just like, it's part of the process.
Right. You got to have multiple ounce scales.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Versus your multiple gram scale. So you're a gram scale or a ounce scale. Right. You know, it's like levels, the scale shit.
It is levels.
And obviously, y'all tenders or whoever is packaging, because I thought cannabis comes prepackaged in Florida. I mean, not Florida, in Jersey. Sorry, I thought it comes prepackaged in Jersey. So that means that y'all not packaging the right grams. So what? Why did I just pay $40 extra on this tax thing? Right, like on this tax product for you not to even know how to scale me right.
And you really gotta you're stepping out on faith because you're not even getting it like in Portland. I can watch people put it on a scale, and the same way you do when you're buying fruit and vegetables from market. But if it's coming to me already prepackaged, it's like almost like my hair products, right? I can't open it in the store, and I can't really be certain that I'm getting the weight that it was supposed to be. And then by the time you leave the store, there's no guarantee, even when you finally get home and you're like, yo, this ain't an eighth, or this is not a quarter, or this is not what I thought weight wise, and I can prove it. How do they know you didn't smoke it? Right? Because once the seal is broken, the seal is broken. It is a little bit of a how do I trust a market that these are the mistakes? And the regulators know, but they still letting them go forward with an adult use. You can't be that thirsty.
Well, I'll tell you how you know I ain't smoked the shit, because it got mold on it. Because according to documents, even now, they are struggling to not have mold on their cannabis, to not have it on their, to not have dry product, to not have poor quality flour. Mm-hmm. Specifically, flour is coming up to have molded. And this is not the first time. No, this is not the second time. It's not the fifth time. And sometimes they are doing it after you purchase it.
Yes, right? That's my biggest issue is these reports are coming out after the fact. So people have already gotten these off the shelf. People already done smoked it, done infused it somewhere. It is already, the damage is done. And that's the part that I think is really problematic, is that we are not ahead of the curve. So that's why I went back to, what is New Jersey going to do now that you have this report? How are they going to prevent this harm from happening in the future?
Well, the only thing right now they're doing is just fining them. They're feeling like fines are the only implementation they could do, or telling them to destroy product, or those are the two things. I feel like there need to be some criminal charges, because when your statement comes out from New York as your base, or Illinois as your base, or Massachusetts as your base, but your New Jersey stores, your New Jersey cultivation, your New Jersey, all these other things are coming out looking crazy, y'all not even on the same funnel.
Yes, and they're not supposed to be. That's the issue, right?
Well, I'm sorry. If you are my headquarters, right, you need to come and get a statement from New Jersey headquarters on why New Jersey weed got mold in it. Every statement based out of not New Jersey is like, oh, we're trying to improve. This is our second retail store in New Jersey. We don't know what to do. We're trying hard. But you want to sell us on your little penny $2 inflated stocks.
No, I agree with you. There's a problem all around. I'm more so also, I guess, really aggravated that we are still saying the same things over and over again, that New Jersey did not necessarily learn from this. And maybe also it's a good thing that New York hasn't allowed their medical operators yet in the market. They're getting a lot of criticism about that. This is why the illicit market is now just surging ahead. And I'm like, nah,
it's been here.
One, there has been an unregulated market for a long time. These other little extra things, that's because you are seeing the manifestation of people who are historically given access feel like they're excluded from something. And now again, they're trying to push their way in through those, different points. And that is usually the loophole in the law. But nonetheless, I feel like the time allows people to adjust, and rushing in when you don't know whether or not, like, the Office of Cannabis Management actually needs to evaluate the New York medical operators. And Kira Lee just had to pull off 60,000 pieces of things from their shelves in New York already. So I think we have enough proof to show that the operators already existing usually still don't know what the F they are doing, and it isn't in the best interest to rush them through. It's actually in your best interest to take a deeper dive and see where they're having errors, make them corrected in the current market that they are in, and then make that a prerequisite to show and prove for transition into that adult use market. It's not just money, honey. It's competency too.
Mm-hmm. New Jersey, y'all need to rush y'all cannabis market to the NICU because it is really sucking right now. I'm just saying, like, I don't want y'all moldy weed. I don't care how many influencers go to your dispensaries. I'm still not buying it.
Yes.
I don't want y'all nasty edible that, you know what, homegirl could have probably made the better version if she had that Ardent Nova or Ardent Mini now.
Yes.
Ardent Mini.
It's so exciting.
Ardent Fix. She could have made that edible herself,
Yeah.
honey. So, no, we don't want your little cupcakes and gummies and stuff. I mean, y'all not even coming with the good stuff, you know.
I don't even think it's allowed in the New Jersey market at this point.
No, well, their edibles aren't
allowed right now.
They're not allowed right now? So people really only buying their nasty flowers?
Yes, child. Sorry. I mean, I feel like you look like the girl trying to figure out which queen died. Yes, I believe New Jersey banned edibles initially. It is not on their list of regulated products at the moment. And again, we are always willing to come back and correct ourselves because we come back every single
week. Well, they
week.
Made so much different regulations, like slip. And we do have 50 states and a lot in general of country, but like...
Yeah, right now I don't think there's edibles in the adult use market. I believe so, but more to come on that. We will definitely circle back with some real details.
People really just buying all that for flowers?
I mean, there's concentrates also. Edibles is different.
Girl, you could make your own hash.
Is a concentrate, by the way,
yes.
But the way in which it is ingested is different.
Yeah.
You're still able to buy things you can use on a dab rig. You're still able to buy vapes in the New Jersey market. So
it's like they making their vapes in the closet, yeah.
Well, based on the mold and based on the way that they're talking about their supply chain mishaps and management of it, I actually think, I'm not sure if it's pre-manufactured, you worried about, do the company know what they're doing? And if you get in the flower and getting the stuff from the dispensary, you worried about, did you get the right amount? It is a bad experience all around.
Did you get the right amount with no mold?
Yeah, New Jersey.
Because are they making concentrates with mold? Y'all need to release more than 80 pages. I still have 200 pages worth of questions that need to be answered about y'all this market, honey. Because you can't make moldy cannabis into a concentrate like that.
You shouldn't, but that doesn't mean you could.
I mean, you can. You could do anything if you wanted to. But I'm saying, like, if I'm buying my flower, this is what's supposed to separate you for the person that makes the concentrates in the closet, honey.
It's supposed to, but again, we've had enough experience that we know that we shouldn't be comparing the markets like that. Like, the legal market is problematic. The legal market got mad drama. The legal market is not consumer protected. It's not protection for consumers. It is a farce. It's a marketing plan. It's supposed to be, but as long as the government does not know what they're doing and private sector continues to try to just cut corners so they can make money, the consumer is going to lose.
Child. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I am just like flabbergasted. I'm so anti New Jersey's medical market right now. I mean, obviously, because I'm in New York and I think we're doing it right. So I'm a little biased.
The medical or the adult use market? Because you know New Jersey's medical market better than New York's medical market. It was.
Well, now, no, they still have the arguments of the moldy weed thing too. It's been
at least they had weed. I mean, New Jersey.
I mean, I don't know. Imani sent me a little menu of some, and I mean, it wasn't. I mean,
now they have flower. I'm happy about that, but I'm saying if you compare them, saying adult use market. Though.
I don't want none of the New Jersey market because they've been having mold since 2020. You got mold 2020, 2021, 2022. You still got mold 3 years later? Yeah. Like, what? Like, homeboy, y'all y'all call me. But y'all market need to keep to yourselves.
No, I think there needs to be, again, more integration. We'll see what these new conditional licenses do to the market. But I just throw the question back to the state, which is what y'all gonna do about it and how do we prevent it from happening? Just telling it in a report doesn't necessarily prevent things from happening year over year, to your point.
Yeah, because you have mold 3 years in a row, you guys.
Yes.
You know, and it's like you don't have no consumer protection. You pay all these extra monies in taxes and you don't even get a refund.
So, with that being said, I mean, I definitely understand all the challenges that we have. But New Jersey has to do better. And it's just an example. It's one of many examples of premature markets that are happening, and we're bearing the brunt of it. You're seeing the aftermath of it, and we probably need to do better. But that being said, we need to do better on our time management. We are now nearing a very long episode. Hopefully you are still with us. Thank you for staying with us. And hopefully you will continue to follow us. Where can they find us?
Girl, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to smoke. Like, this just blew all my high. I just cannot believe. I'm sorry. I know I'm so stuck. But I'm like, you only offer some concentrates? Like, you jump from flour out of edibles into concentrates, and they supposed to make it better.
Yes,
I'm
but
sorry.
I mean, we had this on an episode a long time ago, so they may have changed it. We do not know if that is the case.
Y'all better tell me. Tell me in the comments, y'all. DM us. Let me know, because right now I'm so anti them right now that I just realized, like, holy shit, y'all paying all that money in taxes, don't get no refund. Y'all can follow me at Cannabis Socialite, maybe, but you could definitely follow she_Blaze on IG. You can follow us on Facebook, and you could watch us anytime. Like, subscribe, and share our YouTube at the WeedHead. Okay, we need as many of those YouTube shares as possible.
And I am at Dasheeda Dawson on Twitter and Instagram. You can also hear me every week on Thursday on the Flower to People segment on the Read Your Favorite Show, Sirius XM, Channel 126 Urban View. At any rate, we are well over our time. It is time to go. I'm saying a bid you adieu. I got so much work to do, girl. All right. Bye.